Pausing the pain. Tonight, relief for borrowers with interest rates on hold for now.
Armed gangs targeting Facebook Marketplace users. The urgent safety steps you need to take now.
The cutting-edge new Queensland test to detect and prevent glaucoma.
New providers cutting $400 a year off phone and internet bills.
Plus, fancy a new life from his house to cars, business, even friends. We meet the Queenslander selling his whole world to one lucky buyer.
This is 9 News Queensland.
Good evening. Mortgage holders can breathe a little easier tonight for the next month at least after the Reserve Bank hit the pause button on its aggressive interest rate hikes.
With the economy slowing and inflation easing, the RBA now wants to wait and see if more needs to be done.
At last, a fork in the road as the central bank turns in a new direction.
I think the result has just come through.
Yeah.
The RBA is leaving cash rates on hold.
Hold, yeah, correct.
Oh my God! Thank you, Jesus.
And with that, relief for millions. The official interest rate left on hold today at 4.1%, just the second pause in 14 meetings. Outside the Reserve Bank, protesters were pleading for a roof over their head.
We're facing rent hikes, we're the ones who are facing mortgage hikes.
And that might just be a little closer. Inflation is falling, and economists say the signs are finally looking good.
Today's pause from the RBA really is telling us that they're close to the top of the interest rate cycle. While they may have one, maybe two more rate hikes left in this cycle, they think we're almost done.
Philip Lowe indeed left home with encouraging news. He says the higher interest rates are working to establish a more sustainable balance between supply and demand in the economy and will continue to do so. Of course, the 12 hikes we've already had continue to hit hard. Another reason the RBA has taken a breather, well, the mortgage cliff has well and truly arrived. This graph shows the number of people whose precious low fixed mortgage rates are expiring, leaving them paying much higher variable rates. As you can see, it is now spiking. Economists say even without a hike today, this is a major problem.
The bulk of the pain is still to come. Sure, the interest rate baseball bat has swung many times, but a bunch of people haven't felt it yet.
For now, though, July will go down as a pause, and there are those already talking about rate cuts.
Interest rates sometime next year are going to start coming down. And some people are predicting 5 rate reductions this time next year. You've just got to hang in there.
Chris Kohler, 9 News. Well, certainly welcome news today, but we're probably not out of the woods yet. The market is forecasting a 60% chance of a rise next month and 90% chance that we'll have another hike by September. So that 13th increase is probably still on the way, but certainly relief for now.
There are fresh warnings tonight of the dangers of selling items through social media websites, with police concerned over a spike in attacks linked to online sale meetups.
It comes as 3 men faced court over an attempted robbery at Forest Lake on Sunday.
Booming in popularity, Facebook Marketplace is one of Queensland's busiest places to buy and sell, but it's fast becoming big business for armed gangs looking for soft targets.
It was only about a week ago we saw somebody advertise a mobile phone. The offenders came around, assaulted and robbed the person of the mobile phone.
At Forest Lake, what started as an e-scooter sale for $2,000 ended with 3 people stabbed, their dog killed and 3 men in custody.
Down on the ground. Okay, get down, please.
Alex Den, John Walwal and Aaron Sengyumva are charged with numerous offences including wounding, serious animal cruelty, threatening violence and possessing counterfeit money, while Aaron's further charged with attempted fraud and robbery over a separate machete attack while trying to steal a man's games console nearby last Thursday. Police alarmed at a rise in attacks, most often involving gangs offering to buy expensive items.
It's usually something that costs a bit of money that would draw the greatest risk, and hence you should be taking the most caution.
When it comes to online sales, experts say sellers should avoid posting personal details and do background checks before meeting any buyers in person.
Looking at their profile, who they're friends with, so really wise to do that sort of homework if you are dealing with someone on Facebook Marketplace.
Don't bring the offender to your home, meet at a neutral zone, make sure you've got people with you. If you can, make sure you're under a security camera.
Kate Lamb, 9 News.
Oh, there were major delays across southeast train lines today. Claire Todd-Hunter is live from Roma Street Station. Claire, what was the hold-up?
Well, Andrew, it all started when the 3 train lines were suspended this afternoon. That was the Cleveland, Beenleigh and Gold Coast lines, all due to a police operation that emergency services were called to at around 1 o'clock this afternoon for a trespasser who was on the tracks on the Merivale Bridge between the South Brisbane and Roma Street stations. Now, that was ongoing for about 2 hours before that trespasser was removed, allowing for those train services to resume. The damage had already been done to the Queensland Rail network, though, causing major delays to almost every single train line across the network as a result of those suspensions. Queensland Rail has worked hard to get that backlog back up and running tonight, though, and we're now down to delays of just 10 minutes. Melissa?
Claire, thanks for the update. An investigation into a fatal plane crash in North Queensland that killed a young stockman and his pregnant wife has finished. The Australian Transport and Safety Bureau has been looking into the April 2nd incident and has determined the pilot, 22-year-old Riley Kurt, was not appropriately qualified. Evidence gathered also suggests the plane hit the ground intact. The light aircraft crashed into the Clarks Ranges, killing Riley and his 24-year-old wife, Marie.
The controversial second Ashes test has gone all the way to the top, with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and his British counterpart Rishi Sunak bowling bouncers at one another. Meanwhile, one of England's greatest ever batsmen is demanding the Australian team apologises for its tactics.
A cricket nut, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak came out swinging, accusing the Australians of failing to act in the spirit of the game. A spokesperson said the PM agrees with Ben Stokes. He said he simply wouldn't want to win a game in the manner Australia did. And a full-blown diplomatic incident was on. Anthony Albanese bragging on Twitter about our men's and women's cricket team. Same old Aussies, always winning. The newspapers were waging their own war, with the English accused of being a team of dummy spitters. But Captain Ben Stokes hit back, "That's definitely not me. Since when did I bowl with a new ball?" The stumping of Johnny Bairstow not only has 2 prime ministers at odds, English cricket legends also butting heads. Sir Geoffrey Boycott said Australia should apologise for their actions.
You've tarnished it, you've tarnished your good name, you've tarnished cricket. Put your hand up, say, hey, in the heat of the moment, we got it wrong. We'd like to say we fulsomely apologise. It won't happen again.
Australia didn't break the rules. They didn't break the rules. They were well within their right to not ask Johnny Bairstow back.
New evidence has emerged of the abuse dished out to the Australian team entering the long room.
Are you carrying a legend?
With opener Usman Khawaja confronting one spectator, 3 members of the famous ground remain suspended. No decision yet if they'll be banned for life.
Get it, Usman!
Damien Ryan, 9 News.
It's not an Olympic sport, but that hasn't stopped the NRL demanding essential upgrades to Suncorp Stadium ahead of the 2032 Games. The request to the Olympic Organising Committee catching the state government off guard. It responded saying Suncorp Stadium will only host soccer and rugby sevens during the Olympics and none of the Paralympics.
The reality is, over the last 10 years, we've seen some $43 million worth of upgrades, including $11 million in the last 12 months, in support of upgrades needed for the hosting the FIFA Women's World Cup.
The NRL declined to comment on the submission.
While boats, bombings and Pacific tensions have hurt relations in the past, today friendship between Australia and Indonesia was cemented after a day of diplomacy. Anthony Albanese and President Joko Widodo visiting Taronga Zoo to announce it will soon be easier for Indonesians to travel down under.
Big cat diplomacy.
Now we're going to go inside for a few minutes.
At Taronga Zoo, Anthony Albanese and Indonesian President Joko Widodo surveying endangered Sumatran tigers with no signs of the gnashing teeth that once threatened the relationship.
Today our relationship shifts up another gear.
Instead, it will be easier for Indonesian citizens to travel to Australia, particularly for business and to visit family. There are new incentives for Australian lithium to end up in Indonesia as electric cars and green energy, and 3 Australian universities will open campuses in Indonesia.
Australia sees Indonesia's success as pivotal to our region's success.
Earlier, Broly's behaving badly, But for a leader in his final year, the weather was welcome. Having ridden bikes in Bogor, today smoother sailing and a pledge to prioritise electric vehicles in the future, but that journey will be slow. Indonesia and Australia must build a more productive and substantial economic relationship, the President said.
The saying is that charity begins at home, and this week for the Prime Minister, so does diplomacy. Meeting today with our most powerful neighbour before meeting next week with the world's most powerful alliance, NATO.
The visit overwhelming for some. Joko Widodo leaving with a dance and a show of claws. Now, just for fun. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
A driver has died after a crash in the Lockyer Valley region. A ute colliding with a truck on the Warrego Highway at Helidon just after 6:30 this morning, bursting into flames on impact. A 45-year-old man passed away at the scene. The truck driver, in his 60s, was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Police are appealing for anyone with dash cam footage to come forward. Queensland drivers are being urged to fill up now to take advantage of cheap petrol. Live to Anna Rawlings at Hamilton. Anna, how much should motorists be paying?
Well, Melissa, drivers shouldn't be paying more than $1.68 per litre for unleaded petrol if they are filling up tonight. That's according to the latest data. RACQ says that Brisbane is currently in the cheapest phase of the petrol price cycle. That means around 85% of service stations are charging less than $1.70 per litre for unleaded. Most servos across the southeast are currently sitting around that $1.68 mark. The Gold Coast has cheaper. Some servos there have unleaded for $1.66. If you shop around, you might even find prices in the low $60s. It's a massive change from this time a year ago when we saw those record high average petrol prices at around $2 per litre. But the advice for right now, Andrew, with these cheap prices is to fill up now. They're likely to only last for the next few days.
Get them all you quick. Thanks, Anna. A rain band is sweeping across much of the state with unseasonable conditions wreaking havoc at one of the Outback's biggest music events, Birdsville's Big Red Bash. Our coastline now also in the firing line. July records already smashed in some areas.
The road into the Big Red Bash blanketed in brown.
So wet, muddy, slippery, but we got here.
No vehicle spared a soaking. The annual journey to Birdsville in Western Queensland is traditionally part of the experience for Australia's most remote music festival.
It is very unusual to get rain in Birdsville in this time of year. In the winter, it's normally clear blue skies and dry.
A widespread rain band on the move from Outback Queensland's leaving record totals in its wake.
Mount Isa in particular, they're seeing its new highest daily rainfall on record. So for July, that is, with just over 75 millimetres in the gauge there.
Now it's hovering over the coastline north to Townsville, Paluma and Mount McConnell, experiencing their wettest July days on record. The system stretching south to the New South Wales border too. The big wet cutting access for some of the 10,000 strong crowd trying to get into Birdsville, though tracks are now opening.
I am the only blue sky at the moment, I believe.
But far from lonely, 5,467 campers in blue wigs squeezing together to set a world record for creating the largest ever human image of a country.
It's actually a credit to the people that tee it all up, so it's a logistical nightmare.
Abby Gearin, 9 News.
Well, let's go straight to weather expert Gary Youngbury now at Kangaroo Point. Gaz, is that outback rain what we're feeling in the southeast?
Oh, absolutely, Melissa. Look, it's eased here for the moment, but thankfully we're not likely to see record-breaking rainfall. 10 to 15 times the monthly average in the outback, while we've had about 10 to 20 millimetres, exactly what was forecast over the past 24 hours. Look, it will continue into this evening. Bit of a break at the moment, but within the next hour we're likely to see some more rain in the city. Let me show you the radar from very early this morning, and you'll see the bands of rain that's been pushing through. Once again, 10 to 20 millimetres on average. By about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, up to 30 millimetres in the rain gauge. But some much better news in your forecast. Cold and wet today, sunny and warmer tomorrow. All those details in about half an hour's time. Lofty.
See you soon, Gary. Thank you. Well, there are concerning developments in the Middle East tonight, with the West Bank in the grip of one of the biggest Israeli military incursions in almost 20 years.
What began with airstrikes has now seen ground troops move on the city of Jenin, with at least 8 Palestinians killed.
Familiar sounds to the people who live here. So too the smell that lingers in the air both day and night. But make no mistake, the scale and intensity of this operation hasn't been seen in decades. A show of force moves through alleyways and buildings. Snipers sit back from a protected perch, while from the sky, airstrikes using drones. It's like World War III, this injured resident says. Jenin, in the West Bank's north, has seen several military raids in the past 12 months. Israel describes their latest target as a place where armed terrorists would gather before and after terrorist activities.
From that safe haven, terrorists perpetrated savage attacks, murdering Israeli civilians.
The use of airstrikes is extremely rare. An Apache helicopter fired into Jenin 2 weeks ago. Before then, there hadn't been airstrikes since the Second Intifada almost 20 years ago.
How long this will last? It could take hours, but it could also take days. We're not here to conquer or hold the ground. When it's finished, we'll be out of there.
But they're leaving a lasting mark, bulldozers ripping up roads. The destruction prevents ambulances from getting to the injured. Tonight, as families with their pets flee in fear, the UN urges all military operations must be conducted with full respect for international humanitarian law.
All must ensure that the civilian population is protected.
In London, Karianne Greenbank, 9 News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has labelled Vladimir Putin weak in an interview with US television. It follows the Wagner uprising in Russia that saw the mercenary group seize a key city and march on Moscow before pulling back.
All of us understand that his whole army is in Ukraine. Almost entire army is there. That's why it's so easy for the Wagner troops to march through Russia. Who could have stopped them?
President Zelensky also claimed intelligence shows half of Russia supported the insurrection. Explosive claims. Actor Kevin Spacey slammed by his accusers in court.
Exclusive detail on a Wallaby legend's terrifying southeast home invasion.
Why an entire country has banned Margot Robbie's Barbie movie.
And at the end of sport, the mobile and internet companies saving you $400 a year.
A slippery, snaky person. That's how actor Kevin Spacey has been described by one of his accusers in a London court. The alleged victim of sexual assault telling the courtroom he was regularly groped, dubbing the actor a predator.
The actor appeared relaxed as he arrived at court. The atmosphere inside, anything but. The first evidence was given from one of the 4 men who claim Kevin Spacey sexually assaulted them. The man, who cannot be named, says there were around 12 incidents over a period of 4 years in the early 2000s. He says he was grabbed in private areas and Spacey would try to grope me, grab me. He was a predator and aggressive at times because he was very mixed up with his sexuality. I was struggling with the fact that someone had touched me and I didn't allow them to. And secondly, he was a major movie star. The last time, he says, was as they drove to a party hosted by Elton John. The man saying Spacey grabbed his genitals so hard that he almost crashed the car. He describes Spacey as slippery, snaky, and like his character in the film Seven. Asked by Spacey's lawyer if he was excited by the encounters, the man said no. He was left feeling shame, embarrassment and shock. The man said he can no longer watch films starring Kevin Spacey. It makes him physically sick.
During much of the time his accuser was giving evidence, Kevin Spacey sat taking notes. He's denied all the charges and will give his own chance to respond when he gives evidence in court in the next few weeks. In London, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
Loved ones gathered today to remember Zach Bray, one of 10 wedding guests who lost their lives in the Hunter Valley wedding bus disaster. Family and friends honouring the 29-year-old helicopter pilot and bowel cancer survivor at a service in Sydney.
The last time we spoke was the day before you left this earth, and I can still hear the happiness in your voice and picture the huge smile on your face whilst you talk so excitedly about Maddie and Mitch's wedding.
Many of those in attendance will farewell mother and daughter Nadine and Kaya McBride in the coming days.
The Barbie movie starring Margot Robbie is in hot water with the Vietnamese government, now banned from the country. It's all because a scene in the film includes a map indicating China's claimed territory in the South China Sea, including an area Vietnam considers its own.
Buy my life. Tonight, meet the Gold Coast man selling everything except for his wife. A luxury home, fully equipped caravan, 3 cars and a successful business, all for sale on Facebook Marketplace. Find out the surprise price. That is coming up. Exclusive details. Next, we hear from the hero neighbour who saved a Wallabies legend during a violent home invasion.
Why magic mushrooms are now legal in the southeast.
Dressed in a bulletproof vest, a gunman's chilling street massacre.
Plus the new eye test saving the sight of Queenslanders.
A gunman wearing a bulletproof vest has opened fire in the American city of Philadelphia. He blasted more than 50 shots, killing 4 and wounding others, including children.
Grainy images from a city security camera that zooms in on a gunman on the move. Then a blast. Shots fired at civilians.
He's wearing a white shirt, black pants, he's got a handgun, he's shooting.
His random rampage in Philadelphia deadly. 4 people killed, most aged in their 20s. 2 children, aged 2 and 13, were injured. Someone shot back at the gunman, who was still firing as police gave chase and eventually cornered the 40-year-old.
This male was wearing a bulletproof vest with multiple magazines in the vest. He also had a scanner and an AR-style rifle and a handgun underneath his body.
He was taken into custody. America's 339th mass shooting in 184 days this year in the birthplace of American democracy. On the night before Independence Day, a celebration for Americans. Hours earlier, firearms were front of mind as city officials warned against celebratory gunfire to mark the national holiday.
You have no right whatsoever to break the law by firing a weapon in the air. What goes up comes down.
But the gun violence death toll won't come down. In the United States, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Ben Cannon has been credited with saving the life of his neighbour and Wallabies legend Totai Kefu during a violent home invasion 2 years ago. Tonight, Ben reveals exclusively to 9 News intimate details of the event, admitting it's taken an enormous emotional toll.
This is it. It may only be a few short steps from his place to his neighbours, but for almost 2 years, it's been an incredibly difficult journey for Ben Cannon to make. Are you suffering from PTSD from that night?
I do, yeah.
In August of 2021, as he and his family slept, Ben's neighbour and Wallabies legend Totai Kefu and his family were under attack. 4 youth offenders had broken into Kefu's house armed with knives. Ben's bravely helped to save Kefu's life and his wife and children.
And then I was confronted with their daughter, in hysterics. Behind her, an assailant with a knife, and behind him, Totai, which we kind of ended up sandwiching and slipping around in blood. I did what I needed to, and I would do for anyone.
While Ben heavily criticised the government and the courts, he refused to level any of his frustrations at police, who he says are simply caught in the middle of a broken system. Commissioner, do we have enough police as it is?
So I've always been quite honest about the challenges because we've found it difficult, like many organisations, to recruit. We've seen such an increase in the pipeline from the incentives that have been announced.
Incentives including recruiting officers from overseas, primarily from New Zealand and the UK. Successful applicants will be given visas, a relocation allowance, accommodation and...
It's only 4 months at the academy because they're already trained as police.
Peter Fegan, 9 News.
Australians suffering from depression and post-traumatic stress disorder may now be able to access psychedelics to treat the conditions. From this week, psychiatrists can apply to the Therapeutic Goods Administration for approval to prescribe MDMA and psilocybin found in magic mushrooms after the drugs were rescheduled to be used for medical purposes. The drugs can only be given to patients who haven't seen any improvement with existing medications and must be administered in a controlled clinical setting.
King Charles has brushed off his kilt for a trip to Scotland, where he'll be presented with the Scottish Crown Jewels tomorrow in a ceremony of dedication. Today, a tree planting by the monarch and a meeting with an 11-year-old lass who'd just been crowned Queen in a competition at a village fair. A local breakthrough next, the new test preventing glaucoma.
See the video as a boat flips at 300 kilometres an hour.
The Gold Coast man selling his entire luxury life, except his wife.
Plus, we take you up and away in the new flying car.
Today's pause from the RBA caused a spike on the share market. Here's Chris Kohler again.
50 points were added to the ASX the moment the Reserve Bank took a breather. Investors quickly jumped into banks, but miners and Telstra ticked lower. And there's plenty of excitement about foreign takeovers at the moment. Fruit and veg producer Costa has now jumped more than 20% in 2 days after receiving a $1.4 billion takeover bid from a US private equity firm. And the $1.9 billion takeover of Blackmores by Japanese beer giant Kirin is getting closer, with key approvals won today. Shareholders will vote on that one on July 18. And the Australian dollar fell on today's Reserve Bank news, but remains higher than it was this time yesterday.
It's the leading cause of irreversible blindness globally and affects hundreds of thousands of Australians. But tonight there's hope new treatments for glaucoma could be around the corner, thanks to groundbreaking findings from Queensland researchers.
Po Ling Tan has a strong family history of glaucoma. She's been diagnosed and lives with the uncertainty she could go blind, just like her grandmother and younger brother.
The loss of my sight would be terrible because I see how my brother is.
Like many sufferers, Po Ling knows prevention and detection is crucial. Thanks to groundbreaking new research at QIMR Berghofer, she now has hope for her grandchildren.
It would be lovely if it could be predicted whether their risk is high, and then something can be done.
That's now a real possibility. More than 300 new genes linked to a person's risk of developing the cruel disease have been discovered, which ultimately could pave the way for better treatment and prevent blindness.
In about half of diagnoses, there already has been irreversible damage, so we're just seeking to prevent that from getting worse.
As it stands, more than half of sufferers in Australia don't even know they have it. Researchers are hoping their latest findings help further develop a genetic test to help those at risk be 2 steps ahead.
So the diagnosing the condition is really difficult. So a genetic test would actually allow us to have a simple saliva test in most cases, which would tell us who's at high risk, who's at intermediate risk, who's at low risk.
The best thing anyone can do is maintain regular eye checks. In most cases, an optometrist is the first to see something sinister.
People who are at high risk, then they might need to do it every year or every second year.
Jacob Chigo, 9 News.
Hitting full throttle was just a bit too much for one competitor in a race down a river in the US state of Indiana. Flying along at more than 300 kilometres an hour, the bow lifting out of the water and the boat doing a backflip, luckily landing the right way up. The driver was unhurt. From futuristic boats to cars, and the dream of a flying car is a step closer, with the US approving tests for an electric road vehicle able to fly short distances and leapfrog obstacles. It could be a reality by 2025 and is expected to cost $500,000. Steve Smith on the verge of a different kind of ton. The details next. We take you back to where the Maroons hero the Hammer was first discovered for his blistering pace.
At the end of sport, how you can slash $400 off your mobile phone plan.
Cloudy, cold and wet for your Tuesday, and there's still some more rain to come. Right now it's 17 degrees in the city. Some much better news in your 7-day forecast.
The Hammer has been a revelation for the Maroons this year, and it's no surprise he's the most popular member of the Origin squad on their trip to his hometown Cairns, returning to the sporting field where his blistering pace first caught the attention of NRL scouts.
Rain, hail or shine, the Queensland spirit never wavers. 4,000 supporters flooding in for the Maroons Regional Fan Day in Cairns, creating memories that'll last a lifetime.
And it's my granddaughter's 6th birthday today as well.
Best birthday present ever?
Absolutely.
Rain, hail or shine, they're here to support us, so it's hard not to feel really special.
Hometown hero Hamiso Tabuai Fido, a man in demand.
It's pretty special for myself. You see the turnout we have this weather. They live and breed footy up here, so it's pretty special to be back home.
It was at this ground where the Hammer first caught the attention of the Maroons as a 16-year-old, not on the footy field, but rather the athletics track, blitzing his rivals in a 100-metre sprint at a junior carnival here. Were you barefoot that day too, running against guys in the spikes?
Yeah, I think I was barefoot and everyone else had spikes.
Former Origin winger Ty Williams among those astonished watching it unfold live.
100-metre dash and didn't even look like he got out of second gear, and see him do what he's doing now. You can see why he gives New South Wales nightmares.
A fullback option with Reece Walsh suspended. He's been kept in the centres for Origin 3. Would you prefer to be playing fullback?
If Billy wanted me to play there, I'd put my hand up, but I've played centre the first 2 games, so I'm not too fussed about it.
AJ Brimson will wear the fullback jersey, honouring his #1 fan, Liam Hampson, who lost his life during their European holiday last year.
He would be proud. Obviously, it sucks that he doesn't see that I'm back in that jersey, but I'm sure he's watching somewhere.
A late-night training session in Cairns, reinforcing the Maroons' commitment to complete a series clean sweep.
JT even touched on it last night. You know, if we weren't motivated before we got into camp, last night surely showed us where we're going.
In Cairns, Adam Jackson, 9 News.
Anyone who thinks Game 3 doesn't matter hasn't met Blues debutant Bradman Best. He's ready to follow in the footsteps of cockroaches you love to hate, and the feeling is mutual.
Yeah, hate them. Just hate them, you know. You go to school and you want to have a punch on with the boys that are going for Queensland.
And recalled 5'8" Cody Walker has revealed he would have played Game 2 if not for a quad injury. Despite fears Dolphins hooker Jeremy Marshall-King may not play again this season, he's been named for Sunday's game against the Titans.
He's tough as woodpecker lips, old Jezza, but, oh mate, after the game they're a bit concerned, but all good news today so far.
Once hailed the future on the Gold Coast, Toby Sexton is now a former Titan, released to take up a contract with the Bulldogs immediately. No matter how many runs Steve Smith scores at Headingley, this week he will bring up a century. Smith plays his 100th test in a career marked by incredible highs and a few devastating lows.
Another Steve Smith century ruling at Lords. The next stop, Leeds, and doing the same in his 100th test.
I guess proud, I suppose, is a word. What I've been able to achieve across those 100, it's been a great journey. I've enjoyed every moment of it.
That hasn't always been easy. For all of his incredible record-breaking run hauls, there's been tough times as well. Sandpaper Gate, one of the obvious low points, but not the lowest.
The only time I reckon I've not liked the game was when I had my elbow brace on when I had the operation, and I don't know why, for some reason I didn't enjoy the game. I didn't want to play the game, and the moment I got my elbow brace off, I suddenly had a love for the game again.
That experience helped to steel Smith, which is just as well, because amid the controversy of Alex Carey's stumping, the Aussies are expecting Headingley to be even more hostile.
Honestly, it doesn't bother me. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. For me, I know the person I am. I know how I want to go about things, and I'm out here playing my game and playing for my country, and I'm proud of that.
The last time Steve Smith was here in Leeds, he was unable to play, ruled out with concussion. The pain of that will become a distant memory if Australia can secure victory this time around, wrapping up an Ashes series win.
I've said it for a long time. It's something that's been on my bucket list to win an Ashes series in England. So what a way to top it off if I could do it, in my 100th game.
In Leeds, Sam Jordan, 9 News.
None from 7. That's the Wallabies' record against the Springboks in Pretoria, a 60-year drought.
No, it's a great challenge. It's a great challenge. And something that we're all excited by. Being a part of the first team to beat South Africa in Pretoria, mate, that would be awesome.
South Africans could even field an understrength team, sending their biggest names to New Zealand early. Jordan Thompson has provided a bright note for Australia on the opening day at Wimbledon, winning a 5-set thriller to progress to the second round. Next up, Thompson will be on the big stage against Novak Djokovic.
Just when Australian tennis was in need of a feel-good story, no one was feeling better than Jordan Thompson.
Unbelievable. 2 sets down, was looking like going to be a very fast exit.
Against the credentialed Brandon Nakashima, Thompson fought back from 2 sets down to win in 5, and he'll be needing every ounce of that fighting spirit for his next opponent, a bloke named Novak.
He goes all right at this tournament.
For his part, Djokovic eased into his title defence with a straight sets win, at times turning groundsman when rain arrived. Thompson's pending showdown with Djokovic brings with it a centre court appearance.
I call it the home of tennis. It's it's unbelievable here, and even if you're practicing, no matter what, you do have to pinch yourself.
Thompson is a close mate and training partner of Nick Kyrgios, and while Kyrgios is no longer part of this tournament, he might yet still have a role to play.
He does have a tennis brain, as many people don't think that. He has got an incredible tennis brain, so I will try and pick it.
Thompson wasn't the only Aussie to enjoy a win on day one. Alexander Vukic also earning a place in the second round. While Australia's day 2 focus will be fixed firmly on Alex de Minaur, his focus might wander to the match before him on court 18, where fellow Australian Daria Saville meets his girlfriend, Katie Boulter. And in her 24th Wimbledon campaign, Venus Williams tumbled out, the 5-time champion, in what could be her final appearance here, beaten by Elina Svitolina. At Wimbledon, Tony Jones for 9 News.
And tonight's coverage live on 9Gem from 7:30.
Spoiled for choice at the moment. Thanks, Acco. Well, millions of Australians are facing another cost of living hit, with the telcos increasing the prices of their mobile plans. But as Eddie Meyer explains, there are ways to avoid it.
It's the extra squeeze your budget didn't need. From today, Telstra, Optus, Belong and Boost Mobile will lift their prices. In Telstra's case, its plans will jump by between $48 and $72 a year, prepaid about $65 a year. Optus will increase its plans by $48 a year. But this is just another case where you shouldn't just set and forget.
It's remarkably easy to switch your mobile plan. In fact, it's one of the easiest household bills to switch. You can take your number with you. You might only take about 45 minutes to an hour to be switched over to the new network. There are over 3 dozen different retailers now on the 3 big networks, and you can sometimes get the same amount of data for half the price.
Telco comparison site whistleout.com.au says you could save up to $420 a year by switching networks with similar data. Moose Mobile has a 55 gigabyte plan for $27 a month for 1 year, then $35 a month after that. TPG has a 60 gigabyte plan for $20 a month for 6 months. That then jumps to $40 a month. But if you're with Telstra and want to keep its coverage, you still can. Belong is on the Telstra network and has a 40 gigabyte plan for $35 a month. Exetel is too and offers 80 gigabytes for $34 a month. And these are just some of the deals out there. But if you're vulnerable or doing it particularly tough, Telstra has expanded its top-up program to help you stay connected. Its free prepaid recharge is now a $160 credit that lasts for 6 months.
In just 3 minutes, the Gold Coast man selling his entire life, except for his wife. A luxury home, fully equipped caravan, 3 cars and a successful business, all for sale on Facebook Marketplace. Find out the surprise price tag right after the break. First, Gary's back with a quick check of the weather. Gaz, when is this rain going to clear?
Well, light rain will continue overnight, Melissa, and through early hours of the morning, but a westerly change during the morning should bring back some blue skies and sunshine by late morning. More good news in your outlook.
A Gold Coast man has listed a sale of a different kind, putting his entire life up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace. The Upper Coomera man is selling his job, home, cars and possessions as part of a package deal for anyone who has the cash.
Stephen Toll has a good life.
Very comfortable life. Wake up when I want to.
Nice house, hobbies, possessions, job and routine. The kind of existence you can't put a price on, except it turns out you can. Stephen's selling his whole life as a package deal.
They literally just step into my shoes and the name changes.
The going rate, $2.2 million, enough for the 61-year-old to head off and live his dream of travelling the world.
I just thought if you buy it as a package, as in buy my life, it makes life very easy for someone just to walk straight in and very easy for me to walk out. My partner doesn't come with it. A lot of them want, but they're not having it. She's mine.
So what do you get? For starters, a 4-bedroom, 900 square metre Upper Coomera home and everything in it.
So you get a pool table to play with your friends and family. Enjoy life.
Including an $8,000 lounge suite, entertainment system and an outdoor bar.
Pour a nice cold beer, keep it on an angle.
And a profitable trucking business, which took 10 years to build, and Steve says he runs from home.
It's easy to operate and it's very simple. No stress, no dramas. Pretty well anybody could step in. It would take me half a day to teach them.
Steve will be leaving a lot behind, from a fully equipped caravan to 3 cars, hobbies like workout gear and musical instruments. He'll be walking out the door with nothing more than a backpack and a suitcase.
I even have friends that, they want friends, they're only around the corner.
It was a bit of a shock, but I'm behind his idea. I think it's a great idea.
If you're looking for a pre-packaged life, it's live on Facebook Marketplace now.
I'd like to see a family. I'd like to see someone that have maybe teenagers or young adults or something that can enjoy everything in the house.
Claire Todd-Hunter, 9 News.
Well, time now for the full weather forecast. Back to Gary Youngberg, as today was one of the coldest days we've had this winter.
Yeah, it wasn't a great day, was it, Lofty? Certainly one of the coolest and definitely the wettest so far this winter. It is normally the dry season. A little bit more rain to come overnight and tomorrow morning before we return to blue skies, and wait till you see the temperatures forecast for tomorrow. Short-lived though, because we're heading for some cooler days as we get into your weekend. We'll have that in your 7-day outlook. Let's have a look at temps recorded across southeast Queensland. And look, the minimum's not too bad. It was those daytime highs well below the June average. Beaudesert, Gatton and Ipswich only made it to 17 degrees. Brisbane and Caboolture 19, Coolangatta and the Goldie 20, Redcliffe and the Sunshine Coast the highs of 21. The weather map, a trough and a cloud band will clear most of eastern Australia. Still a few lingering showers across the ranges and Queensland's coast. A front moving through the Bight will deliver a few coastal showers in its wake. Looking interstate, a wet day in Perth, late showers Adelaide, a couple of showers Hobart and Canberra, sunny in Darwin and 32. Queensland tomorrow, a couple of showers in Cairns and Townsville, then scattered showers Mackay, Rocky, Gladstone, cloudy and wet for Bundaberg and Maryborough, up to about 15 millimetres as the rain we're receiving heads further north. Partly cloudy inland, we're looking at low 20s for Mount Isa, Longreach and Roma. Here in the southeast, early morning showers, but a possible coastal thunderstorm clearing with that westerly change to blue skies, and temperatures tomorrow low to mid 20s, up to about 25 the high. Moreton Bay, north-northwesters, turning westerly and easing 5 to 10 knots. The sea's up to 2 metres offshore at first, but improving for the afternoon. Brizzy, early morning showers, clearing to a sunny day in those westerlies, a top of 24 degrees. Your 7-day outlook, slight chance of an afternoon shower Thursday, sunny Friday 21, a sunny weekend with cold mornings and cool days continuing into early next week. Ipswich, partly cloudy, 24 Thursday, sunny Friday and 22. Cold mornings over the weekend, followed by sunny but cool days and low 20s. For the Gold Coast, cloud increasing Thursday, possible late shower, back to sunshine Friday and 21. Then a run of cold mornings and cool sunny days over the weekend and into next week. The Sunshine Coast, afternoon, evening shower Thursday, sunshine for Friday and 22. Then some chilly mornings. We are going to see temperatures single digits over the weekend, and the days will be beautiful and sunny, but also some cool daytime temperatures as well. So just a little bit more rain overnight, guys.
All right, we're ready for it. Gary, thank you. Before we go, here's a look at a story you won't want to miss tomorrow night.
Pay half price at major supermarkets every time you shop. In a 9 News cost of living special, we put the booming new shopping trend to the test. Groceries, meat, fruit and veg, cleaning products, bathroom supplies and more. How to get your indisputable 50% savings. 9 News tomorrow.
And that's 9 News Queensland for tonight. Ali Langdon next with the current affair.
Thanks for your company. Good night.